Welcome to our last class. Our topic for today is the chapter Condition Delta from Emergency Sex and Other Desperate Measures. Let's start with Ken's brief time off in the United States and how he chooses to spend it. He decides to talk to Matt's father. He wants him to know that the United Nations report covered up some details about Matt's death. This is another rare instance in our literature where we see someone navigating an interpersonal problem rather than a physical or violent problem. Ken remarks that Matt's dad didn't know what Matt's life was like in Mogadishu, what India base was like. But he does have an idea, though. His boy died in the service of peace. The idea he has of his son is this image, this idea of a hero. And Ken has the information, the details that could reveal the truth of how Matt died to his father. But it would tarnish that idea of Matt dying heroically, which is probably a comfort to his dad. What's more important, the idea of a hero or the truth? Closure and comfort while you're grieving, or the gritty details of how your loved one's death was just a sad, preventable accident? Ken ultimately decides to feed into that heroic idea of Matt, to celebrate his life and accomplishments and heroism, rather than prolong a conflict over the details. He would love to fight the UN on this, maybe even in court, gather evidence, publish scathing articles, but he chooses not to fight, and instead tells Matt's dad about all of the good and heroic deeds he did. Ken says, "I make a conscious decision to continue to believe." He still wants to believe that the UN is doing good work, that he himself is doing heroic things, and so he continues on to Rwanda. But is this decision to believe just a lie he's telling himself? When he gets to Rwanda, he knows exactly what to do and how to navigate negotiations to clear out the Tutsi prison and save the prisoners from such unsanitary conditions. He is confident and proactive, so unlike the Ken we saw back at the Somali court. He says, "I think I'm actually starting to understand. I was hell-bent on being an effective humanitarian in Cambodia and Somalia, but a naive fog is finally lifting. Revealed is a train wreck of illusions, the depravity of someone else's war, the futility of competence stillborn there. To understand this, you have to become this." What does he mean here? What is this you have to become? When he enacts his plan to clear out the prison, we see what should be a moral dilemma. The UN believes about a third of these prisoners are actually completely innocent, but in order to get transferred to a cleaner facility, they have to confess that they are guilty of murdering people during the genocide. If you were in prison and you were innocent, what would you do? Try to fight for your innocence? Or lie, get marked officially guilty, but then get access to food, medicine, and doctors? Ken understands this moral dilemma, but it doesn't haunt him the way it might have in the past. He's jaded now. He knows this is just how things are done. Isn't this a little disappointing? Shouldn't he have higher expectations? And later, when he goes to Haiti, he sees the UN blatantly fake election results. He says, "I don't care. It was just an election. People voted, they burned the ballots, faked the result. So what? I was so naive in Cambodia to believe we could export democracy with one election." Is this what you have to become? Disillusioned and resigned to the way of the world, even if it is unjust? Ultimately, Ken can't take it anymore, and he leaves Rwanda to go work the much easier mission in Haiti with Heidi and his other friends. His conscious decision to continue to believe has evaporated. So let's talk about Heidi and Haiti and how she got there. Heidi seems to make a lot of life-changing decisions based around the men in her life. It was her divorce from her first husband that initially drove her to the United Nations. And when it comes for her to decide whether she will leave Somalia for the Haiti mission, she waits to figure out her relationship with Yusuf first. And then she decides to stay in Haiti after her UN job is over, to be with Mark. A part of me wants to read this as very irresponsible decision-making, or immature, or anti-feminist. But then again, why isn't love a good basis for making life decisions? Andrew and Ken have always been about the work. They've been putting off normal life while they're traipsing around Somalia and Bosnia and Rwanda. Heidi's the one who never put her life on pause, even when she was working a war zone. And in life, isn't love and the people you love the most important thing of all? What could be a more important thing to value? Of course, Ken meets up with Heidi in Haiti, and their lives there are just so picturesque and peaceful. It's all mangoes and cocktails, beaches and salsa dancing. Their biggest worry is how to keep their pool clean in this tropical climate. They might as well be tourists there on vacation. Ken says that it's his lack of devotion that brought him to Haiti. Andrew's devotion took him elsewhere. Are we mad or disappointed at Ken for giving up on Rwanda and going to Haiti? Again, we're faced with that question. How much self-sacrifice can we expect from one person? When have they done enough good deeds to get to stop being a hero, to relax, to enjoy their own lives, to be a little selfish? I mean, people are still dying in places like Bosnia and Somalia. Heidi says, I set off on the mission to Haiti with the attitude of a Marine, angry with Andrew for sitting behind a desk in New York. Is my derision responsible for his standing now among corpses in Rwanda, covered in their flesh and fallen hair? I don't need that anymore. I just want to have an ordinary life. Again, is she giving up too soon? Or has she earned this? And Ken changes his mind again. He can't let go of the war, so he goes running off to Liberia, ashamed that he too wasn't deep in bodies, and leaving Genevieve behind like all the others for the privilege of standing alone in yet another field, another country, another war. Heidi ultimately chooses paradise, and Ken and Andrew choose hell. Let's take a look at that hell Andrew is living in. The journal entries about Rwanda are perhaps the most harrowing, most difficult parts of this book to read. For me, Andrew is the only one of the main characters who even comes close to my ideal of a hero. But the suffering he puts himself through also reminds me of what Allison said to Farrell back in Strong Female Protagonist. Nobody is going to want to be a hero if the benchmark is torturing yourself forever. And Andrew is kind of seeking out that self-torture. He refuses to go to the peaceful Haiti because, he says, what I need is a country at war, a sentiment he's repeated many times throughout the book. In Rwanda, he is literally surrounded by death. It's on his skin, in his hair, under his fingernails. One thing has changed. He's finally found a girlfriend, someone to love, something Heidi thought Andrew would never do because all he does is work. But even when he's made love to her and is sleeping peacefully beside her, death finds its way into their bed too. He tells us about the recurring dream he's been having. I'm not in Suzanne's bed. I'm lying in the grave, but can't get comfortable on top of the bodies. I curse them as I move limbs and skulls out of the way. He's been tugging on his girlfriend's arm at night because he mistook her for a corpse. He can't escape his work, not even with love, the way Heidi does. One day, after digging up bodies massacred in the church, Andrew says, after many hours, I decide God was here. He heard all the desperate prayers and just pissed all those prayers back down to earth, leaving everyone to die. This can't be the God I prayed to as a missionary kid. This is a pitiless stranger, and to pray to him would be absurd. The more time I spend thinking about it, the harder it is to escape the feeling that it's partly our fault. We should have been here to protect these people, and we didn't show up. We should have been capable of changing just this tiny sliver of Rwandan history, but we didn't. People kill. The God I worship doesn't protect the weak, so only people can stop it. We're people and we didn't. All of us are guilty. Andrew's primary motivation throughout the book seems to have been his Christian faith, and now that faith is shaken. How could something like this happen? He compares Rwanda not only to the genocide in Cambodia, but to the Holocaust of World War II as well. We've talked about how no one thought to write down the rights of humans until the Holocaust, when we got the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now, Andrew and the others have been sent by the United Nations to try to get evidence to be used in court. But everyone is already dead. The human rights violations have already happened. They're done and over now. Why is it that human rights can only be defended after the fact? Doesn't this render human rights meaningless? I mean, wasn't our motto after the Holocaust supposed to be never again? And yet we see this atrocity repeated over and over again, not only in the pages of this book, but in very recent history and even today. The world came together to agree on these universal human rights. It's something that we say we all believe in, but money or politics or something keeps getting in the way of us achieving human rights for all. If we've all agreed on this definition of good and evil with these human rights, why do we keep violating those rights? It's a big question to end the course on, but I hope the things that we've read and the things that we've talked about give you some food for thought in answering this question. There are lots of different situations we can find heroes in war, within a family, against a specific enemy, or even fighting the good fight on an international global scale. Before I close out, I want to just summarize some of the things I hope you got out of this course. Yes, this is a reading course, so of course, one of the things I hope you can take with you is close reading and analysis skills, the ability to find multiple meanings or a deeper meaning in a text. This course also goes for the global civilizations and cultures credit, and we've seen a lot of different cultures and societies and time periods, so I hope that exposure to these diverse places can help you situate yourself in our diverse world. And of course, our theme was heroes. We can think of heroes as a cultural artifact to study, but examining heroes also is a good way of testing our own moral boundaries, figuring out what we really believe about right and wrong and how we should live our lives. So I hope this course was able to do some of those things for you. For our last discussion board, I would just love to hear your thoughts on the course overall. What are some of your major takeaways? Was there a particular text that really spoke to you? Or are you pondering new questions after some of the things that we've read? And then lastly, just a couple of reminders for you. The final essay proposal is due tomorrow, Friday, May 1st at 8 p.m. I will read all of them over and email you with feedback and ideas so you can use them for your final essay. This is also the same day the extra credit is due, May 1st at 8. Next, if you'd like to make up any discussion posts or journal entries, you need to do that before the end of the day on Monday, May 4th. I will not accept any makeup work after that. And finally, your final essay is due at noon, not the usual 8 p.m., noon, on the Friday of finals week, May 8th. If you'd like me to grade your paper early, just email me and let me know. If you want to take an S for satisfactory in the course, email me as soon as possible, but no later than the end of the day on May 8th. All right, I think that covers everything. I really hope that you enjoyed the course, even after all of the zaniness we had to go through because of COVID-19. Please continue to take care of yourselves, stay safe, and have a really great summer.